Well, hello and welcome to the Footy Interchange. Great to have your company on the podcast, and it's great to be back in the chair and going through all of the footy issues right around the league. If you haven't joined in before, and if you haven't watched this show before, it's basically where we get right around the country, we crisscross the footy highways, and we check in with each state with the people on the ground, in the know, with the latest issues that are going on in their hometowns, their home states. So looking forward to getting right around. You'll meet all of our guests, and they're all back again if you have been here with us before. But it's terrific to have your company. I'm very much looking forward to getting stuck into it. An unbelievable round of footy that we've just seen with plenty of close results and some upsets and some plenty of talking points as well. Will Schofield joins me. Schoey, welcome to you. Good to have you back in the chair.
I was going to say welcome back, Schoey. I like the fact that Eliza's getting more work than I am in this show because she's better than me, quite frankly.
She is a gun.
So thanks for chopping me out last week. I was actually cooked. I was absolutely butchered, and so sat it out last week. A little bit like my footy career, really, in and out, dropped and back in.
The difference is you dropped yourself last week.
Just like Willie Reilly.
Yeah. Well, we're going to suspend you, but you got in first, so it's okay.
Seriously, mate. No, it's good to be with you. Good to be back.
Yeah, it is good to be back. As always, you can hit us up on X or any of the different channels through BackChat as well if you want to send us a question. The question part of the Footy Interchange will be dropping in the next couple of days, so we'd love you to get involved with that. We'll have a bit more news on that a little bit later on in the program as well. But I want to throw something at Schoey today, and he's not prepared for this whatsoever.
Which is no different to any time I ever get in front of a microphone.
Because we were going to do this last week, but you weren't there. Because last week we ticked over a third of the way through the season.
Did we?
Can you believe it? 8 rounds in.
Okay.
Ridiculous. So it's a week late, but we're going to get into it today. Now, how closely do you pay attention to the ladder?
Oh, I don't know it off the back of my hand.
That's what I wanted. So
I've looked at it.
He's looked at it. He knows vaguely where the teams are, and this is what I wanted to do. So I'm going to ask you a question, and I want a one-word answer on each team, and we're going to find out, can they win the premiership, can they make the finals, or are you sticking a fork in them?
So
one word. So we're going with
finals. Oh, no.
Yeah, so this is a little segment I would like to call Flags, Finals, or Forked. That is the segment we're going with today. Flag, Finals, or Forked.
All right.
Can they win the premiership? Can they make finals? Are they just making up the numbers in the finals?
Okay.
Or are you sticking a fork in them and they're done for the year?
Okay.
Okay?
All right. Yeah, I like this.
So we're going to go through in alphabetical order of the teams rather than ladder position. And seeing as you don't know, you don't have the ladder in front of you, I just want a gut feel from you.
Yeah, the more I think about it, the less of an idea I have about that ladder.
I just want a gut feel from you, okay?
Okay.
Let's start with the Crows.
Finals.
So no flag for
You
them.
watched me put like 12 in the finals.
That's okay, because we'll do this again in after round 16. So finals for the Crows. Brisbane.
Flag.
Yeah, that's pretty obvious. Carlton. Forked, gone.
So does that mean I've just ruled them out of finals?
You've just ruled them out of finals. Right then.
Yeah, stuff it.
Collingwood.
Flag.
Flag for the Pies. They sit second at the moment, going pretty well. Essendon.
Finals.
Oof,
That's a bit rogue.
Yeah, it's a bit rogue. They're ninth right now with 5 wins and 3 losses.
Where were Carlton, by the way?
Carlton are 10th with 4 wins, 5 losses.
Oh, there's the line.
Okay, so you're saying they're forked. Fremantle.
Boy. Oh, boy. I mean, forked. Right now, forked.
So you're saying they cannot make finals from here. That's what I want. They can still be a chance.
Everyone can make finals from here. West Coast can make finals from here. No, don't look at me like that.
Could they make finals? West Coast can't make finals. You know that. But Fremantle and Carlton, could they make finals?
Sure. Okay. I'll amend Carlton to finals, and I'll amend Freo to finals.
Okay.
But right now, neither of those teams play finals.
Right now. But we're looking at potential through the rest of the year.
Sure, finals.
So you still think that they are a chance of making the finals?
I haven't ruled them out.
Okay. Between Carlton and Freo, who do you have higher in that equation of making finals?
Oh, gee, those two are hard.
Just so we have it on the record. Freo. Okay. Geelong.
Finals.
So they're 7th. So they're not a flag contender for you?
No.
Gold Coast.
Their footy's very good. Flag.
Flag for the Suns. Nice. They're 4th at the moment. They do have a game in hand, though, on the rest of the competition because they play that extra one after round.
Yeah, but they've also got the biggest home ground advantage in the whole AFL, just in front of Geelong.
Darwin and Metcalfe.
Yeah, correct. They're playing 2 away games right now.
Whatever
They're
it's called
home
now.
games.
That's right. GWS,
Off finals,
no flag.
flag.
Don't let me convince you. You give me your honest opinion.
I just think of my mindset is like right now. I'm not saying like,
It's where they are right now. So at the moment they're 8th.
Yeah.
5 wins,
Yeah,
4
they can win a
losses.
flag. Yeah,
But
they
you
can win
still
a
think they can win the flag?
yeah.
Have I just convinced you of that, or is that what you think?
No, that's what I think. And Geelong can probably win it as well.
All right.
Sorry, I'm butchering the second. That's good.
Put an asterisk next to Geelong
Yeah.
and GWS. Hawthorn,
Flag.
flag for them. So there's still a chance. They're 3rd at the moment.
Yeah, Geelong are definitely still a chance, by the way. Flag.
You're backtracking quickly. Melbourne,
Definitely not flag. I'm considering forking them. Yeah, I'm forking them.
forked.
Yeah, too much reliance on too few for Melbourne.
So they're 15th at the moment with
Yeah,
3
they're
wins.
They're
So
forked. No, they're definitely forked.
definitely forked. North Melbourne,
Yeah, fork. I really thought they were going to improve this year. They're forked.
they've been disappointing, haven't they?
Yeah.
Even though they got a draw against Brisbane on the weekend, but
Brisbane might try.
disappointing. So Port Adelaide,
Fork.
another one gone. So
Yeah.
they're done there. In 13th at the moment with 4 wins, 5 losses. So they're the same
Too inconsistent.
amount of wins as Fremantle
too
and Carlton.
inconsistent.
Richmond,
Fork.
St Kilda,
Finals.
just. Finals just.
They'd be in Carlton's range.
Sydney,
Fork.
Gonski.
I'm forking them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they weren't lucky to beat GWS, but they were lucky in terms of if they had lost that, they won 2 games, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
They've only won 3 games.
They've only won 3 games.
Yeah, fork.
3 wins, 6 losses, sit 14th at the moment. West Coast. I didn't need to ask that one.
Spoon and a fork, perhaps.
They're gone camping.
They're sporking.
Sporkham. And the Western Bulldogs.
Finals.
Finals, but not a flag contender for you.
I don't think so at this stage.
All right. So going back through them again.
But I can change these at some point.
Yeah, we'll do it again after round 16 and
Okay,
see
great.
where your opinion has changed. But this is flag, finals, and forked on the Footy
How many
Interchange.
flags have I got?
So I'll run through them all again. Adelaide, you said finals, not a flag. Brisbane, flag. Carlton, you did fork them, but now they're finals. Collingwood, flag. Essendon, finals. Freo, finals. Geelong, finals /
Nah,
flag.
finals, definitely flag. Nah, flag. Yeah, flag.
Flag for them. Okay,
Yeah,
we're
flag
changing that one. Gold Coast, flag. Giants, flag. Hawthorn, flag. Melbourne, North, Port, Richmond, all forked.
Went on a forking run, didn't I?
St Kilda, finals. If it goes well, Sydney forked, West Coast forked, and Bulldogs finals.
Yeah.
So
Six contenders?
the flag contenders you've got at the moment are Brisbane, Collingwood, Gold Coast, Giants, Hawthorn,
Geelong.
and Geelong, sorry, as well.
6.
Yep. All right. So we'll keep an eye on that as we
I'm
go
happy
through
with
the
that.
season. We'll redo it after round 16.
They can't all win it.
No, they can't. That's why I'm putting it to you. So there's some teams that you think, yeah, they're going to make up the numbers in the finals. There's some that you think are genuine flag contenders. And then others that have clearly
I
dropped
feel
off.
like I need a middle ground between a cup and a finals. Like, you know, they can win a flag,
If everything
but
goes
it's
right.
unlikely.
Yeah, unlikely. So
There's a
that's
couple
kind
in that.
of the
like
finals.
Bulldogs are probably there.
Yeah.
Like they could win them. They could win flag.
Yeah.
But I don't
Everything would
have
have
them
to
in
go
front of
right.
the others.
Yeah. So that is flag, finals, and forked right here on the Footy Interchange. If you agree with Schoey or disagree with Schoey, let us know. Check it out in the comments. Let's get right around the country here on the Footy Interchange. The Footy Interchange as we head across to Victoria now and check in with our man Drew Jones from Fox Sports and also Goat Fantasy as well. For those watching along online on YouTube, he is deep in the depths, in the bowels of Fox Footy at the moment, in the bunker. He's got Alistair Lynch over his shoulder ready to go, just doing a little cross there, Lynchy in the background, Drew. But we've got you to talk some footy, mate. Great to chat and let's get stuck straight into it. The Pies, great win for them last Thursday coming over here to the West. And then, of course, they've got the luxury of bringing players in and out and resting them. They're going pretty well.
Yeah, 9-day break, pretty handy for them after that stirring win over Freo. I know Will Schofield is a big Pies advocate these days. He would have loved what he saw up close at Optus Stadium. So, the news, I guess, just keeps getting better for Collingwood. So Nick Dacos, he looked sore Thursday night, hip initially, and then pectoral issue was outlined by the club after the game. So he trained yesterday. We're watching pretty closely. Completed most of the session. It wasn't exactly a hard session by any stretch. That comes tomorrow, Thursday afternoon for the Pies as they prepare for Saturday against Adelaide. But expect Nick Dacos to play nicely freshened up after a longer break. So Scott Pendlebury, he'll be back. Braden Maynard returns. Brody Mychek, good to go as well. So they just get stronger, the Pies. Just the slight question mark is on Darcy Moore. So shoulder concern coming out of the game on Thursday. Very light session yesterday, just spent it with medical staff doing run-throughs basically. And then we didn't see Jordan De Goey. So he's carrying 3 niggles, I think groin, knee and ankle at the moment. So he's finding it hard to generate the trademarks, that power that we associate with Jordan De Goey, which makes him one of the most damaging midfielders in the comp. So Pies are having to make this decision. Do we roll Jordan De Goey out at, 80% fit, or do we try and get him as close to 100 as possible for the back end of the season? So that's just an ongoing issue for the Pies to deal with, but they are looking really good at the moment and making every post a winner.
And Lockie Schultz will obviously miss off that bad concussion as well. Bombers have won 5 of their past 6. I've read that you've said that. I can't believe I didn't know that. Can we trust them yet?
No, I mean, it might be too soon. Trust it. It's hard to earn, easy to lose. And that one loss was Anzac Day at Collingwood, where they put up an okay fight, but they never really looked like winning on a wet day at the MCG. So just looking at the Bombers, what the difference has been over particularly the last few games. Peter Wright's back, and he looks like the old Peter Wright before he got that suspension for running through the back of someone contesting a mark. He's got a bit of his mongrel back, power back. He looks confident flying at the ball. He's been kicking goals. So that's made a massive difference. Cole Langford is also back from injury, who's one of the best mid-sized forwards in the comp when he's up and going. And that, in turn, has allowed Josh Caddy to have probably the best 3-week stretch of his career because he's no longer being taken by the best defender. So he's a rising star this week and has looked really, really good. I'll throw 2 more names at you. Zach Reid, finally getting a run of games after so many injuries coming out of that COVID draft. Looks fantastic down back, intercept marks, looks good with ball in hand, extra confidence with Reid. And then sometimes you need an extra adult in the room, and that adult is Will Setterfield, who's just come in, done the job, experienced player, and has looked really good in the midfield. Throw Jai Caldwell back in after injury. All of a sudden, things looking okay for the Bombers. Big test Saturday night against the Dogs.
Yeah, Dogs game against the Bombers will be a really interesting one. Bailey Smith, he's a name that everyone's been talking about each and every week. His form's been incredible.
Yeah, talking the talk, walking the walk. Love the fact that he provided 90 cartons of his free Baz drinks to the people of Ballarat after he gave that, after he stitched them up on national telly at the MCG. But recruit of the year, no doubt about that. He's come in, averaged 30 disposals a game. I thought he was excellent against GWS, who are really restrictive in the midfield. Got off the chain, laid 10 tackles with 70% disposal efficiency. Like, that's probably the knock on Bailey Smith, is he doesn't use the ball as well as other midfielders, but the running power is just extraordinary. He's got himself into amazing condition. When you consider players coming off an ACL, it feels like it's 18 months to 2 years before we see their best footy again. Baz was ready to play at the back end of last season, but obviously the Dogs wanted to protect their asset. Comes in at Geelong and just dominates. Got a little bit of feedback in the control room here, but Baz has just made every post a winner. As I've said, it's been a superb start. I reckon he's probably got 15 Brownlow votes already. Like, he's dominating.
What about his old club? Just fell short in Darwin at Gold Coast second home. Who are you liking at the Dogs?
Yeah, so I reckon I've said Baz recruit of the year. Just behind him is Matthew Kennedy. I think he's having a superb year at the Dogs. In the end, has been a fantastic pickup for a second-round pick, and he went into that exit meeting with Michael Voss at the end of last season and was essentially told, we don't have a spot for you in the starting 22. We don't know what your best position is. maybe it's best that you have a look around and see if you can find a club that's got a spot for you. And he's just been the ultimate Swiss Army knife, Mr. Fix-It for Luke Beveridge. 3 goals on the weekend playing forward. I think he had 28 disposals the week before playing as an inside mid, and has just fitted in seamlessly to this Western Bulldogs setup. It's been a superb start for Matty Kennedy.
Brilliant stuff, Drew. Before we let you go, a bit of GOAT fantasy news with some of the players you reckon we should be looking at, trading up or down to across the weekend.
Okay, so here's what I'm thinking this week. I put it out there last week. Caleb Daniel needed to go.
Oh, yeah, he's
and
gone.
He knocked out a 57 Tasmania.
He's gone.
So Caleb Daniel, sorry, Will, what was that?
He's gone. Caleb Daniel, get out of my team. Gone.
So if you still have Caleb, you can hang on to him for one more week. Rebounding defenders against Richmond, you score an extra 20 points against the Tigers. You get the ball in your hands, guaranteed points. So I reckon you can hold him one more week. The big watch is Jaden Short. So he's a test this week with the knee injury, late withdrawal on Sunday. Almost all of us have Jaden Short. If he gets named to play, hang on to him for another week against North Melbourne, and you can do an upgrade elsewhere. Maybe it's Caleb Daniel up to a big dog mid. But I really love Jack Sinclair this week. Underpriced, he's about $930K in fantasy. Coming up against West Coast, potential points on offer. We can get another premium defender in. You're going to have Rosie go back in a couple of weeks when the position changes come in, and all of a sudden your backline's stacked.
All right, I like that. I can live with that. For what it's worth, CJ at the Hawks is coming into my side. He is, if you're talking about underpriced, he's spat out a couple of plus 100s in the last couple of weeks, and he will be entering my side as an emergency on the bench, little loop the loop early in the week, and then we'll see how we go for the rest of the weekend.
Yeah, and I like James Peatling as well with no Matt Crouch scoring nicely as a mid forward.
Brilliant stuff, mate. Always great to chat. Thank you.
On you, boys.
Drew Jones there with the latest out of Victoria right here on the Footy Interchange. The Footy Interchange as we head across to sunny Queensland with Tom Rockliff, of course, 200 gamer in the AFL, and our man up there in Queensland. He's taking on one troll at a time on social media at the moment. We love his work, taking the high ground there as well. Yeah. Tommy, very, very nice from you. 2 teams going pretty well. Surprising draw for the Lions, but the Gold Coast Suns, should we just call them, I don't know, are they the top end Suns now? Are we taking in the whole top part of Queensland into the Northern Territory as well, because they love playing in Darwin.
Yeah, the Darwin Suns. I mean, they've been incredible up there for the last 7 games now. They've won 7 on the bounce up there. Massive game on Thursday night against the Hawthorn Footy Club. So it'll give us a real indicator of where they are. We've seen this last year. They went up there, had a good couple of wins, and then let themselves down after this week that they spend up there. But they're potentially, speaking of resting a few players as well, big Jared Witts, who I still believe is one of the most underrated ruckmen in the competition. So might have a look at Boyle this week up there on Thursday night. But they've been super and, again, got the job done against the Western Bulldogs. So you think about last year, they got Geelong done up there by 64 points, and then they had a good win against the Dogs. So their form up in Darwin is super, and they won't be giving up those 2 games anytime soon, you wouldn't think.
You want them to move to Darwin? Is that what you're putting on the table?
They should potentially move up there. They're near unstoppable up there at the moment. So, I mean, it's a good indicator for them, and they may if they win again this weekend, it may go a long way to them securing their first finals position in the time that they've been in the competition. So against Hawthorn, it's a great opportunity for them. But yeah, they've been super up there, Schoey.
They've got the biggest home ground advantage other than Geelong in the competition. So good luck to them. They haven't played finals in their history, and they're sitting in the top 4 right now. So it's looking positive on that side of the country and the state. What about Kitty Coleman, our man? He's back from that ACL. A few games in the VFL. How's he tracking?
Yeah, well, he potentially comes back in this week. So it's what do the Brisbane Lions do with Dane Zorko, who had 39 again on the weekend off half-back. We know that Zorks was sort of at half-forward, dwindling away, not probably having the impact that he has been used to throughout his career. Magic move last year when Kitty Coleman went down off half-back to put Zorks to half-back, all-Australian half-backer. Now Coleman's ready to go. What do they do with the Zorko-Coleman potential both off half-back? I mean, they're weapons for the Brisbane Lions. Their ball movement sensational off half-back. Yes, they had a draw on the weekend. I feel like I say it every week to you guys. It feels like they're in first and second gear and they're still sitting on top of the ladder. So it's a scary proposition. Potentially get Coleman back across that half-back line, Tommy Duday as well, who's been forgotten about, never played in it, Lions jumper. He's slowly making his way back through the reserve as well. So they're going to get stronger and stronger again, the Lions. But it's what do they do? Do they bring Coleman into half-back, or potentially this week it might be a good opportunity for him to come in, ease him in on a wing, potentially with Berry going out. So I think you'll see him come back in, and he was scintillating a couple of years ago in the final series, nearly got Brisbane their first premiership against the Pies that year, and then we've seen him go down with the ACL very early on last year, missed the grand final and the premiership. So Brisbane, scary proposition that Coleman potentially comes back in across half-back to add another weapon. They're already number one in the competition, the Lions, at their ball movement from their back 50 to scoring their front half. So imagine having Kitty Coleman up your back pocket to release at round 9 or 10.
Pretty scary, really, I think, for the rest of the competition. Tom, how do you reckon they took the draw on the weekend? Do they be disappointed not to get the full points, obviously playing against North, who haven't been going that well?
Yeah, they'd be certainly disappointed with that going down to Hobart. You need to win those games of footy. But as I said, they're still sitting on top of the ladder. So I don't know whether it's a weird illusion or a good prospect for them. They had a draw last Mother's Day, went on against the Adelaide Crows, went on to win the premiership. So they've had a draw on this Mother's Day. Can they? Is that a good sign for them? Time will tell.
Take the omens, absolutely. Tom, great to chat to you, mate. Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys.
Tom Rockliff there with all the latest out of sunny Queensland. The Footy Interchange as we head to New South Wales to chat to Cal Sinclair, of course, former Swans, former Eagles ruck, who joins us right now with all the latest out of Sydney. And Cal, great to chat to you, mate. The Giants, what a win that was. They love playing down in Geelong.
Absolutely. I think we all penciled them in for their fourth straight loss, and there's probably no harder, I guess, road trip in football than heading down to the Cattery. But it was honestly a sensational performance. You probably saw them come out very hungry and with a ton of commitment at the contest, particularly in that first quarter. But Geelong aren't easy to beat, but I'd tell you what, it was probably one of the games of the year.
Yeah, I agree with that. Massive standout was Jess Hosking. Even though he's just doing what he's getting paid to do it, which is kick goals, like the goals he kicked and how clinical he was as set shot, like you don't see that from every key forward. What are your thoughts on him and how he's been playing and his contract situation?
Mate, it's I don't reckon there's another player forward in the comp that values his shots on goal than what Jesse Hosking does. I have heard reports that he's due diligence during the week to ensure that he gets enough shots on goal is by far beyond anyone that's, been a forward in the competition. But I think the real losers in Jesse Hogan's story would be Melbourne Football Club and the Fremantle Football Club. Like, he'd be in his 30s now, and he's playing like a $1.5 million player at the moment. So, I definitely empathise with Jesse. He's had some tough challenges over his career, but it would just be staggering to know how much money this guy's left on the table at his previous footy clubs. You just think of, Josh Tracy. I tell you what, how good would Jesse Hogan be complimenting him? And the forward line at Melbourne, I tell you what, they would love to have a fit and firing Jesse Hogan at the moment. But I think 7 goals down at Kardinia Park. Generally, not many players have done that. I think the last one to do it was David Hale, I think, for the Kangaroos. He did that on Matthew Scarlett back in the day. So aren't many bags kicked down there unless you're an absolute superstar, and he is. Not
at all. And the Giants have been such a great fit for him as well with the level that he's been able to get to. You mentioned Freo there. They come across to town to take on GWS. It's a massive game for the Dockers. The Giants will be feeling a little bit better about life after that win last week.
It's a huge game for the Dockers. It's probably similar to what the Giants went through last weekend, heading to one of the toughest road trips in football and literally just have to win. So Fremantle have to win that game. But if you're the Giants, unbelievable confidence booster they got heading down to Geelong winning. But they need to get back on that bankable winning list. They need to start building back momentum because the reality is they've fallen, from that top pack considerably over the last month.
So the Swans, mate, if we flip to them, they win the Battle of the Bridge and it was a great win against GWS, but then come to Melbourne and they just look listless and boring until they flick a switch. What's happening with Sydney at the moment?
It's hard to actually get a grasp on how they are actually playing. I've made the point week in, week out, I kind of question their depth a little bit at the moment. I think one of the strong, stories Sydney have always had is a really good, depth players that come in and can obviously service the team really well. Just doesn't appear like they've got that at the moment. I think Corey Warner, Isaac Heaney, they had an off day. I think they were considerably beaten by the Essendon midfield. Grundy had a good game in the ruck, but you can't just rely on your ruckman to get you over the line. It's honestly a depth issue for them at the moment. They just can't find the consistency. The one thing they do have is that they can score quickly when they decide to. So I kind of look at the mental side of their game. Why are they waiting to the last quarter to, do a bit of a panic run to the finish line? And there's a bit of a theme of that this year. The games they've lost, they've always had a quarter where they've kind of just got back within a sniff. But the reality is they're not playing like a team they were over the last couple of seasons. And I think if they lose another couple, I think you probably pencil in your footy trip in September.
Yeah.
Where would you go for that, out of interest? Oh, top three?
Yeah. I think Dean Cox has got an island off of Perth, so he might take them there for a bit of a heart-to-heart or a leading team sort of off-field, footy trip there, just to have some really hard home truths.
Where's the best one you've been to? Come on.
I did enjoy Darwin when you and I went there back in 2014. That was good fun. Doesn't really get the kudos that it deserves, but I think the number one spot I went to was Texas in Austin.
Like it.
Sounds like a good trip. Cal, thank you very much, mate. Great to chat.
No worries, guys. All the best.
Cal Sinclair there. Darwin for a footy trip.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I went back to back years.
It is underrated, Darwin, I reckon.
Well, we rated it highly.
I can imagine you would have. I've been out there for a few footy trips, not footy trips like you, but footy trips during the year to go up and call games and usually extend a day or two either side. And it is just magic to get up there mid-year.
The only place I can say in Australia that has that covered at the moment is Adelaide, Gather Round. It potentially Cairns, but probably Adelaide at this stage. And Adelaide's just, it's right at the top of my sort of list of things at the moment.
Darwin's very good. Mitchell Street, very interesting.
Yes.
Very interesting place, but great to get up to the top end. And it's great to see some footy up there too, but also really good to chat to Cal Sinclair over there in New South Wales. The Footy Interchange, as we look at Western Australia, neither team particularly going all that well, which has been a bit of a theme throughout the year. West Coast very close on the weekend, Schoey to their first win, but not able to get it done. Great chase and tackle by Tom Brown. Any danger of a shepherd, someone going through?
No, it wasn't shepherdable. I've watched it. I thought the same,
reckon?
but no, it wasn't. Absolutely, it was not. You can't go there.
I don't agree with you on that one.
No, you're incorrect. I've looked at it multiple times. Mate, you can't just
bit of talk.
click your fingers and you can't talk either. Middle of the MCG,
in front of
mate.
him. He could have cut across.
Paps. We'll discuss this in a little bit.
We will. We'll get fired up about it. But we bring in Eliza Reilly, who is, of course, from Code Sports. And, in fact, we'll kick it off to start with today, Eliza, because very big work from you and dropping a bit of a bombshell today.
I wouldn't call it a bombshell. I think there's probably bigger stories going around, but it does concern the AFLW and West Coast teams specifically. And all I sort of can say at the moment is that the future of Jess Hosking, who was obviously a highly successful recruit as a delisted free agent for West Coast last year, her future at the club is in doubt due to an off-field issue. There's plenty to be worked through, I should say, rather in the next few days and the coming weeks. But the sort of on-field reality for West Coast is that she had such an impact for the club last year. She kicked 2 goals in her first game against her former team, being Richmond, and sort of set her season alight and was such a valuable leader at that club. But as we sit here today on Tuesday morning, her future at the club is in doubt, and that's all we can probably leave it at that for the time being.
Sounds like some pretty good journalism from you, Eliza. You can catch all of Eliza's work at Code Sports if you want to read some more details about that. Let's stay with West Coast then. Close but no cigar. Where does that leave the footy club after a pretty close effort at the MCG?
Yeah, I think it hurts to have, 2 losses under 5 points within a month of each other, but it gives the Eagles a lot of confidence that their first win of the year isn't too much further away. It probably was their best opportunity against Tigers on the weekend, but that sort of effort intensity, the sort of way they dominated large periods of that game, they should walk into the game against St Kilda at home, especially feeling that it's a winnable game. Obviously, Ross Lyon has got his troops pretty well drilled and would have a few ideas up his sleeve for how to counter West Coast. But I thought some of the performances of the players on the weekend, Liam Ryan floating through the midfield, he looked really dangerous in there, and Jamie Cripps winding back the clock with some of his efforts in the forward 50. The pieces of the puzzle seem to be largely there for the Eagles to chalk up their first win, but it's just a matter of them falling into place.
Yeah, it's so close on the weekend. They just have admitted themselves they lacked a bit of composure at times through that last quarter and weren't able to get it done. Fremantle on the other side of things, they have so much expectation around them. They had on the stat sheet really a dominant performance against Collingwood, but in the end they don't win either. So the pressure continues to ramp up on them. Tough trip away to the Giants. Sean Darcy does his play. I think Nathan O'Driscoll's already been ruled out of making a return to the team and giving a bit more run there too.
Yeah, I mean, starting with the Sean Darcy issue, it's every time he gets sucked out of game, he's just going to be in the headlines all week, isn't he, given how much money they do have tied up in those two ruckmen. But the sort of mail on him is that it was this sort of jarred knee that Justin Longmuir spoke about post-game, and it's something that might unfortunately just eventually happen within games given his surgery history on that knee. So it's not the end of the world. They could rest him up this week, or he could, sort of get up and play. It sounds like it's not totally out of the question that he will be missing this week, and that obviously ignites this conversation again about the two ruckmen and how they function within the same team. But I guess the other one who was looked like he was in the sort of contention to play a consistent senior role was Quinton Narkle. Obviously, he was sub 2 weeks in a row, and he's gone and unfortunately hurt his knee in the waffle and will be out for at least the next 6 weeks. So the hope is that, like a Jago O'Meara might be close, but they haven't put a timeline on his return as of last week. So it feels like the Dockers are just going to have to rely on the same effort and intensity they brought against Collingwood, get a few more things right, tidy up those inside 50s and give themselves a red-hot crack against the Giants.
Brilliant stuff, Eliza. Great to chat, as always. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Eliza Reilly there with the latest out of the West. Before we move on from WA, though, Schoey, need to chat through. You and I were on radio on Friday, and we spoke about West Coast heading into the weekend, and you mentioned about Jeremy McGovern and a bit more perhaps to his concussion and how seriously West Coast are taking that right now. Anything else you can tell us about it, or anything you want to clarify?
Well, probably nothing more else to add other than I don't know if it's newsy or not, but, the club is taking it very seriously. He's had a number of concussions over the last couple of years. And, as we're seeing throughout, we've had tribunal decisions, we've had match rulings, we've had players, in and out of the game with head-related injuries, and that, we know the legalities around this. And I think most clubs are taking this option that, the 12-day concussion HIA mandatory break, that's happening, of course. But clubs, not just West Coast, are looking at it more seriously. And I think we probably in the future could get more, mandatory longer than 1 week. So, in Gov's situation, they're looking at it very seriously. He might play this week, he might not.
But it's more about the cumulative effects.
Yeah, cumulative load. And if you look back at how many concussions he's had over the last 3 years, there's a number of them. And so, there'll be a number of players at different clubs in the same situation that starts piling up, and you start thinking, well, how many times can you keep knocking your head? I did an interview during the week last week. It was a podcast related to head and mindset, a bit about performance mindset, but a bit about concussions and the way, I think about, my career and the amount of times I was knocked out or concussed. It's probably on one hand, maybe onto a second, if I really thought about it. But the protocols and the way that clubs look after players now is so different. I was knocked out and played that game on a number of occasions. I was definitely concussed and had the after effects and played the following week on a number of occasions. I've lied to get through concussion tests, early days. I've altered the way that the baseline testing is done. So even when I did get a concussion, I could clear that. These are all things that are common throughout the AFL and have been.
Previously or now?
I'm sure now still, mate. Like,
yep.
Players are just so wired to compete and play and win and do things for their teammates that the head stuff's no different to an ankle or a hammy. Or, you know, if you can get your way back into a side and play, you're going to do it. That's why you see re-injuries. That's why you see players playing when they probably shouldn't be. Because, yeah, if you can talk your way in and you can you know, put yourself in a position to be able to play, you're going to play. So that's why with the head knock stuff, like sometimes it needs to be taken out of players' hands. And so, yeah, it's a little bit of gov in that, but it's a little bit of industry-wide. I think that, you know, clubs and individuals are starting to look at this very seriously, and when there's a number of them, then, you know, further discussions need to be had.
We wish Jeremy McGovern well and see how that unfolds over the next few weeks. Great to chat to Eliza Reilly there as well with all the latest out of WA. The Footy Interchange as we get our injury update. Thanks to Front Runner Physiotherapy. Steve Gravina is with us, of course, former physio in the AFL, and he joins us now. A little bit of banter between Will Schofield and Steve just about some of the players in the PSA. Schoey, trying to get someone over the line.
I can't name names, but he's treating a couple of my players that I'm coaching. And this is the coach physio dynamic. So Stevie has told me 50-50 on a player.
Yep.
And I've said, does that mean 80-20 or does that mean 50-50? What do you reckon, Steve? Is this normal?
I thought I got out of this pushy coach scenario 3 years ago, mate. But here we are again.
Brilliant. Now, let's focus on the AFL because let's start with the Bombers. Look, really disappointing to see a player on debut do their ACL, and they've had a few of those types of injuries this year, the Bombers, so far.
Yeah, really disappointing for the young fella on debut. Your classic ACL mechanism, he's come down from landing and the foot has landed outside of his centre of mass. So where all the weight comes down, the force goes directly vertically down, and because of his foot's on the outside of that, the force goes through that knee, causing the buckling mechanism. And, yeah, unfortunately, the ACL's given way. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, horrendous first game. On the plus side, you see this occasionally in young players, and it's a great growth opportunity for 12 months now to learn other aspects of the game and develop. But obviously, you want to be playing footy. But a 12-month scenario, he'll have reconstruction and hopefully be bigger and better next year. And then, the club's had 3 this year, which, everyone starts asking questions. Realistically, Brizzy had 4 last year and win a flag. So typically, it's not an indictment on a club when you get 3 or 4 of these out of the box. Usually it's one injury per club per year on average. Sometimes you get a few more, which is an unfortunate coincidence. But they've had a high-performance team working together for a few years now. There hasn't been any major changes from what I understand. And generally it's just, the bad luck situation where you get a few clustered together.
Yeah, fair enough. What about over here in the West? Sean Darcy, knee soreness, was subbed out of the game. I've heard a lot of chat, especially from over East, that they don't think he's fit. Well, I would say, no shit. Like, he hasn't done pre-season. So from a medical point of view, my point of view is no shit. What's your point of view from a medical side of things?
Yeah, similar. Like, we talked about this a few times early in the season.
Yes.
He's had some complications coming back from the knee and then the infection in the ankle. And it was a pretty accelerated return. And so you just haven't had the prep work. So to have, 5 weeks down the track returning, soreness creeping in and then having to have a bit of time off, it's no great surprise. You just hope that the club were sort of half expecting it and knew the risk of bringing him back quickly like this. And there may need to be a week or 2 where you just rest him across the year, but he can still put together, 10 to 12 games at the back end now. And if a rest every few weeks is required to get the best out of Sean Darcy, then maybe that's the case. But ideally you get a longer lead in and hopefully you can avoid these situations. But, that's not the game of AFL footy at the moment by the looks.
No. Clubs, players, fans get frustrated when there's repeat injuries that happen. It certainly happened a little bit at the Western Bulldogs. Yeah,
the two sort of, Treloar being the veteran and Cody Waitman, who's been desperately unlucky as well. Bad to worse for both of them. Like, Treloar's had recurrent calves, and then that last one kept him out until last week. Got through the game seemingly, but unfortunately he's gone and missed again on the weekend. So, back to the drawing board. I think the information coming out from the club is it's not as bad and it's only going to be a couple of weeks. And then, the saviour of the bye coming up as well, which might come into that consideration. But for a veteran athlete, these recurrent soft tissue injuries, it's almost writing on the wall stuff. They'll be desperate in terms of trying to find anything possible to help him along the way and be speaking to experts around the country, which you tend to do after these recurrent ones that you can't get on top of. But in the midst of a season, it's really hard to rebuild someone who's missed so much and try to get them back to those high level intensities. And with the veteran athletes that are really limited with their ability to recover and adapt to the demands of the season in a short turnaround, it's going to be a challenge for Adam to get through the back end of the year. And then with Cody, we're not getting a lot of info, but again, there's been a complication post-surgery, so more issues with the patella following surgery. I don't think you see him again this year, given the amount of hiccups he's had along the way. So, really unlucky for him. But, hopefully there's some news at the back end that's a bit more positive.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Steve, as always, mate, thanks very much for your time.
Get back to work. Get my players on the park, please, Steve.
Will do, mate.
Steve Gravina, their front-runner physiotherapy in Osborne Park with all the latest injury news. The Footy Interchange as we head to South Australia. The push well and truly on, I reckon, to have a showdown on a Thursday or Friday night in prime time after another absolute belter it was between the Crows and the Power. We go to Sim Thomas-Wilson from the Adelaide Advertiser and from Code Sports, who joins us now. Sim, another cracking showdown it was.
Yeah, hey guys. Yeah, probably one of the better showdowns we've had in a while. Did you guys watch it?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, a couple of beers and watched the showdown.
It looked like Thursday or Friday could be on the cards in the next, when the fixtures are announced for the next round of them. I know Adelaide are pretty keen on it. We had a Friday night or a Thursday night one a couple of years ago, but it wasn't standalone. I think it was up against the Melbourne game. So hopefully it has to be a true standalone prime time game, the next one.
So what's going on with Port Adelaide? Because as far as I can see from over here in the West, Willie Reilly suspended himself from Port Adelaide. Is there an update in what's going on there? Is he going to play? Is the AFL stepping? What's happening?
Yeah. So, obviously a big week before the showdown with the whole this issue around Willie and the threats that he made to players on and off the field. And, yes, I got a ban from the AFL, but before that he had said, I'm not in the right mind frame to play. So serves a one-match ban, even though he'd already withdrawn himself from the side. He's back in Darwin yesterday, so the good news report is that he probably should play this week. They're expecting him to put his hand up after everything that happened last week, so he'll be a pretty welcome addition. Because you imagine if he played, Port might have won that game. Could have been, they might have just done an extra goal from somewhere, so he'll be a big boost from there for them. But today, I think just reported that Kane Farrell's out for at least a month. He's had to have knee surgery to clean up something there after he kind of hurt it a little bit. Felt it being a bit sore in the last moments of the showdown. So that's a big blow for Port Adelaide going forward. Just
for what it's worth, perhaps before you ask the next question, if I was playing against Willie Reilly, former teammate of mine, by the way, within the rules of the game, where I sat on this was like most thing that's happening on the field, unless it's not discriminatory, I think it's pretty fair. I think we move on from it. But if I was playing against Willie, I would be verbally going at him. Again, within the rules of respect. But I would be trying to get Willie to speak out because clearly he's had trouble in doing that. I wonder who Port playing this week?
They got the
We're playing Geelong, which is quite interesting given that was one of the teams involved that the one from last year came up about. And Port are expecting Josh Carr yesterday said they are expecting players to, try and play on this a little bit, but he said as long as it's in the spirit of the game. So I think that's what they've got. That's what they're preparing. They're preparing for it.
Well, Josh Carr would know exactly what's in the spirit of the game because he used to play hard. No, I love it. And I just want to make clear that this shouldn't be you can't speak to other players on the field. It's a part of the game that you can get a mental edge over someone. This is the top sport in the country. Yes, there's a line, but I'd be going pretty close to it with Willie Reilly if I was out there, Paps.
Yeah, you try as a defender, don't you?
Absolutely.
To do everything you can to put your players off. And as you said, as long as you don't go over the line, then what happens on the field stays on the field. I think it's still at that for that competitive edge that teams and players are trying to get. So that will be an interesting watch against the Cats, and there'll be close eyes on all of that. The Crows, a win in the showdown. They're going pretty well. Reilly Thilthorpe, unbelievable at the moment. They must be feeling pretty good about life right now.
Yeah, I think they are, because they probably didn't play as well as we know they can. They said they didn't play all that well. Like, you look at the stats, smashed them in clearances, smashed them inside 50s, and they're all just find a way to win. You know, like that 10-minute burst in the third quarter and then 10-minute burst in the fourth quarter, which they're able to put on the goals. So, yeah, that was a big win for them in terms of what they want to do and becoming a team that can challenge for, the two-mate finals, can challenge for the top four. Now they have Collingwood. That could be a real statement game for them. The last 4 games between the two have been decided by a total of 12 points across all 4. So history says it's going to be a tight one.
Be a big game to win Collingwood at the G.
Yeah, early game Saturday.
All right, I'll be watching.
It certainly will be. Sim, great stuff, mate. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sim Thomas Wilson there from the Adelaide Advertiser and Code Sports with the latest out of South Australia. The Footy Interchange, just about time for us to wrap it up and give you some info on how you can get involved in the question segment of this podcast as well. But Schoey, meant to talk it through when we were chatting with Eliza from a WA point of view. I actually was a bit surprised at some of the takes, particularly from over east, about West Coast potentially resting Oscar Allen or deliberately taking him out of the game on the weekend because they were playing Richmond and the benefits of all of that. And then the extension to the chat being to mothball him for the rest of the season so that they guarantee that if he leaves via free agency that they get that number 2 pick in the draft. What's your read on that whole scenario?
So is the question, should West Coast rest him?
Not play him again for the rest of the year. Not risk injury. Make sure his knee is okay and doesn't get any worse so that he's taken by another team at free agency, and then that compensation band of pick will go at pick 2.
I mean, if you've made the decision to trade him, perhaps that is a good call. Like, I don't think I'd necessarily advocate for it, though. Like, he is still the captain and they've made the decision not to step him down from that. So it feels like he wants to be committed, but it is turning into just a bit of a, he's doing press conferences on meeting with coaches, and then his form's been poor. And they're playing him as a backman. And they can't fit him in the forward line. And then he's been laid out. It's just a bit of a non-event year, and we're getting close to halfway through the year. So, I mean, yeah, it would come down to what West Coast have decided to do. It wouldn't really have anything to do with Oscar, I don't think.
Andrew McQualter's shot it down. Any talk of them doing that?
Well, when I say West Coast, I don't mean Andrew McQualter because he's the coach. So he wants the best players every week.
But they wouldn't have taken him to Melbourne and put him through a fitness test right before the game if they were deliberately trying to not play him.
No, he'd be injured.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be able to play. No, there's none of that.
Yeah.
But if they should or shouldn't, if that's the question, that won't be up to Andrew McQualter because he's not the list manager, he's not the CEO, and he's not dealing with contracts. He just deals with the players that he has. So he wants Oscar Allen to play. Of course he does. He's in best 22.
Is it becoming too much of a distraction?
No.
Overall?
You'd have to ask players within the 4 walls, but you wouldn't think so. I mean, like, it's a pretty simple scenario. Like, does he want to be traded or not? Yes or no? Does West Coast want to trade him? Yes or no? Answers to those questions will then give you the answer of whether you should, keep him out or not.
I still think he should be playing forward when he plays.
So do I, but if you've decided to trade him, then no, you shouldn't, because you need to get games into Jack Williams and Archer Reid. There's no use wasting 14 games on Oscar Allen if you're like, we're trading him. That is happening. If they've done that, then it makes sense to play with the back line.
Almost time for us to wrap it up.
Yes.
Been another good show. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Now, question edition of this podcast. Give us the details.
All right. So this may or may not be the best part of the show because it is what you want to know. The questions you asked us across social media on BackChat, __ on Instagram. If you send us an email, hello@backchatpodcast.com.au. We've had a couple of those through this week. Or if you put a question through on the YouTube channel or on X, either from Paps or me, there's plenty of places you can get to us. We pick the very best each week and we get to them. And quite often, this is where the best conversation happens. Well, finally, figured out what we're doing with this. So it's going to be here on the show for the next 4 weeks. I can promise you that. But come the halfway point of the season, this will be headed to Patreon. I know there's been a bit of mixed messaging throughout, but this question and answer part of the show will be here for 4 weeks. We'll give it to the public. It'll be here. But if you want that going forward, you need to sign up as a patron of BackChat. It costs you $10 a month, $2.50 a week. It's about a mouthful of coffee these days. You can sign up as a patron, whatever you want. It'll be posted there each week as well. But after 4 weeks, that'll be the only place you can get it on BackChat's Patreon.
And if you jump in on that, that's not just the content you get.
That's a great point, Paps. But wait, there's more. We've got early release of everything we do. We've got ad-free content of everything we do. We've got discounts on sponsors. That's across, we're talking whiskey, we're talking beer, we're talking merch. You get discounts across all of that if you're a patron and you're a part of a community that gets first access to everything. Any question you ask on Patreon comes straight to us. You jump the queue, and so if you really want something answered and asked, you can do that on Patreon as well. Well done, Paps.
I'll just tee it up for you and you knock it over.
Might be called... I was going to try and put Papalia into Patreon. Papalia's Patreon.
Well, either way.
Paparion? No.
Either way, it helps us keep this podcast going as well. So if you're enjoying it, we'd love you to jump on there as well, and then we can answer your questions directly too. So keep an eye out for that.
You can do that at backchatpodcast.com.au, and you can just go Patreon up the top of the page.
That was going to be my next question. Thanks, Schoey.
Well done, Paps.
Will Schofield, Adam Papalia with you. We're working on the radio on 6PR on Friday night, calling the footy, so I'd love you to tune in there right across the weekend. We work together on Fox Footy as well, so keep an eye out for that too. But this has been the Footy Interchange.